sabotaging the very future of America. Donald Trump is playing into Beijing's hands. His son, Barron, was denied entrance to Harvard, where the United States would alienate its neighbors, allies, and the majority of the world. Last two moves are going to assure that there won't be any talks for quite some time. Typical story of Donald Trump. He doesn't care who he hurts. China will have to survive without the United States.
The U.S. administration has launched another attack at the foreign students in the country, this time specifically at the Chinese students. In a statement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, and I'm quoting from it, "The U.S. State Department will work with the Department of Homeland Security to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields." Now, China is the second largest country of origin for international students in the US behind India. The latest move that has come just hours ago has already created anger and panic among the students. To get us a sense of this decision and what could be the repercussions of it, joining me on Hindustan Times is Einar Tangen from Beijing. He's the founding partner of the Center for China and the World at Macau City University, senior fellow at the Taihen Institute, China's largest independent think tank. Mr. Tangen, good to have you with me.
It's good to have you. I'm also senior fellow at the Taihen Institute, which is China's largest private think tank.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction as well. Let me first gauge your first reaction to this move that's been done by the Trump administration.
Well, it's been a long time in coming. People knew that he was going to take some sort of action. You have seen him over the last month or so taking concerted action, ironically, against America's educational institutions. You have to understand 1/4 of all the revenues that are used yearly by universities come from international students. And of that number, 1/4 of that comes directly from Chinese students, who are about 1/4, and India is just a little bit more, and also just over 1/4 of the total number of students. We're talking almost 1 million students. It's a huge impact. There's 385,000 jobs at stake and over almost $48 billion in terms of the economic impact that this has. Now, obviously, if they're just concentrating on China, it'll be a portion of that, a little more than a quarter. For instance, it was $14.3 billion that Chinese students brought into the United States in 2023 to 2024. Now, it's caused a lot of shock. The question in many people's mind goes back to a couple of things. First, Donald Trump has outlined that the future of the United States lies in reindustrialization. Well, reindustrialization means that you're going to replicate existing capacity, industrial capacity that exists already in the world, which means it's going to be highly competitive. The U.S. has to protect itself with tariffs, and it has to find the huge amounts of capital that would be necessary to rebuild all of this industry and manufacturing. As opposed to, the United States has some of the best educational institutions in the world. It has world-class thinkers. It has incredible amounts of technology and research, where those are the keys to the digital future. And this is an area which does not require the massive capital that you would need for industrialization. And guess what? The margins are huge. You start looking at software as a service, you start looking at Google, you start looking at Apple. These are all entities that are not producing, they're producing profits at huge levels, but they're not manufacturing things because it's a very, very low profit. To give you an example, Foxconn, which is the maker of many of the things that I just talked about, especially Apple, they take just over 2% in terms of it's a guaranteed 2% above costs. So it's not the usual business where people think, well, I need at least 10 to 12 to 14% margins on my business. So it seems that Donald Trump is heading the wrong direction. And not only is he doing that, He's also sabotaging the very future of America. 20% of all of the STEM graduates in the United States are from China. Many of them wanted to stay in the US. That's why they went to school there. He's chasing them out.
Right.
Every couple of weeks, you hear about another noted professor leaving the United States because they feel uncomfortable. So this is not going in the right direction. Sorry.
Your answer reminds me of the conversation I had with a Harvard student yesterday, that it's the international students who make Harvard, Harvard. Let's focus on China for now. The Foreign Ministry of China has denounced the latest move, but is there any power in Beijing's hands to reverse this unprecedented move, diplomatically or elsewise?
Well, actually, this is the odd thing. I mean, Donald Trump is playing into Beijing's hands. Those students are going to have to go somewhere else. And if they don't feel welcome in the United States. I mean, Europe has thrown open the doors and say, if you went to those schools, you want to come here, you're automatically accepted. Many of those people will consider going back to China. I mean, there are many alternative educational sources. But, today it's China. But tomorrow it could very well be India. For some reason, Donald Trump takes it in his head that he doesn't like India anymore. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Look at Harvard. Last year, in June of last year, so it's been less than a year, Donald Trump said that he wanted to staple a green card to every diploma for anybody who studied in the United States in STEM. This was his plan. Yeah. So a year later, no, he wants to get rid of large portions of it. What has changed? Well, many people are talking about the fact that his son, Barron, was denied entrance to Harvard, despite everything he was doing to try to pressure Harvard into accepting him. And this is the kind of situation, and this is not the first time that we've seen Donald Trump take out his frustrations on a particular target for two reasons. One, he wants to show them that he has the power. Two, he wants to frighten other people and institutions. And we've seen this many, many times. So there's there's one other issue, $80 billion, which is distributed to universities in the United States, which has been absolutely essential in funding the pure science research that has allowed the United States to stay ahead of the game in terms of technology. He's eyeing that for whatever purposes he has in his mind to reindustrialize America. He says, why should we give it to them? So it's puzzling at best.
I want to talk about that very purpose. The U.S. Secretary of State is posing this move in national interest. But it is definitely a very political move as well. I mean, to just quote from the very statement that the US put out, the statement is titled, "New Visa Policies Put America First, Not China." And then the statement towards the end goes on to say, visas of anyone connected to the Chinese Communist Party will be revoked. They're specifically mentioning a party of a foreign country. How do you assess that?
Well, I think the reaction would be the same as globally, as if they said a member of the BJP. I mean, what is it about about the CCP, Communist Party of China, that Donald Trump objects to? Is it because they have been more successful? I mean, this is the issue for Beijing. They're looking at this and they see a man running towards a cliff, certain that there will be soft rocks below. I mean, never in their wildest dreams could Beijing have imagined that a situation would arise where the United States would alienate its neighbors, allies, and the majority of the world. I mean, this isn't something that Beijing could accomplish. They wouldn't even think about this. But Donald Trump single-handedly has presented Beijing a gift, not in the sense that Beijing can take advantage of it, but it's just making Beijing look better by virtue of how terrible he looks and his actions are. When you go after students, you're going after the future. Whether it's Indian or Chinese or from some other country, that doesn't matter. You have these bright minds. You want to nurture them. absolutely. If you find somebody who's a spy, kick him out. But he's not doing that. He's throwing out, he says, I'm going to get rid of all of them. He's closed down applications for student visas. And at the same time, he's just issued an order to American companies not to sell chips to China. And this in the background when he says, oh, yeah, Xi Jinping's my friend and I want to make a deal with him. I think he's anxious to make a deal with me. I don't think any world leader is anxious to go and meet with Donald Trump after the debacle that has happened first, with Zelensky. Before that, you had Trudeau, and most recently, Ramaphosa. He seems to delight in getting people in his clutches and then, promptly embarrassing and trying to humiliate them. How do you negotiate from that perspective? I mean, I can only imagine what would happen in India or Pakistan or anywhere else where their leader was humiliated that way.
Right. Mr. Tangen, I also have to ask, is the doubt that the US administration showing, is it completely unfounded, given that there have been instances of Beijing running illegal overseas police stations? In fact, 2 people were arrested just in April of 2023 for inspiring to act as agents of the PRC government. They were running a secret police station, as they called, in Lower Manhattan, New York.
Yeah, the secret police station is a narrative that's put out by the government, the State Department, the CIA, the FBI,
narrative.
the
You
national
don't think it's true?
No. There are people there. The Chinese government set up local offices to help people with visas, the kind of paperwork that is necessary for foreigners who are living abroad in order to stay current, taxes, etc., with the mainland. U.S., we have very similar things in terms of our consulates and things like that. We have groups that, officially and
these are not consulates. Why do they have to run in secrecy if at all
they
working
weren't running
for the
in
people?
secrecy? Otherwise, they wouldn't have known about them. I mean, these are entities. Now, is it possible or probable that some of them were being used covertly to try to convince people who were on the lam for stealing money or crimes in the United States to come back to China? I have no doubt that was part of their purpose. But, you had, this is not something that China would be doing alone. Look, USAID did a lot of wonderful work, but they also served as a front for the CIA. And that was very evident in what happened in their hunt for Osama bin Laden when they used the pretext of offering vaccines to collect DNA material so they could try to hone in on Osama bin Laden. Well, it sounds great until you start realizing that now if somebody in that area says that they're there to administer vaccines, they're being killed, right? You cannot and should not weaponize the delivery of medical services. That's too serious. If we have a worldwide pandemic and we can't get the vaccines to people because they don't trust anybody and they start killing the people who are trying to help them, just imagine the world that we have. So there are certain lines in the world today that we need to keep in mind. I don't think that, them trying to pressure people that they see as criminals into coming back to China is necessarily wrong. I mean, in the United States, we did it in Italy. We not only we didn't pressure them, we kidnapped them off the street. Italian government wasn't too happy, and we dragged them off to the United States. And we've done that in countless other jurisdictions. So it's not something that I think is great, but does every government do it? Absolutely.
All right. Given that there are so many more issues propping up between Washington and Beijing, let's first talk about trade. Trump has called for fair trade deal with China, but also one that puts American workers and industries first. How do these two tango, and how is Beijing looking at it?
Well, I mean, Beijing has already told them. I mean, look, let's just look at the facts. Donald Trump wanted to negotiate. He was talking about how Xi Jinping was going to call him. Well, the call never came through. And it doesn't, that's because, it's not because Xi Jinping doesn't know how to use a telephone. All right, what did they do? This was the first meeting between the United States and another country on this trade thing outside the United States. Prior to that, it was people on their knee pads going to Mar-a-Lago or coming to Washington and being humiliated by Donald Trump. No, they asked him to come to where? Switzerland. Where else is that? To the home of the World Trade Organization, an organization that China supports and the U.S. has sabotaged. It gives you an idea of who's interested in international world order, institutions, and the rule of law versus who's interested in just getting their way. So at this point, China said very clearly to them, if it's not respectful, we're not going to negotiate. And quite frankly, these last two moves are going to assure that there won't be any talks for quite some time. Attacking Chinese students. I mean, how low can you go? I mean, are you really saying that these are the people who are attacking Jewish students? That they were the ones who were, out there demonstrating on behalf of Palestinians? Most of them were not, but he's affecting all of them. And this is the typical story of Donald Trump. He doesn't care who he hurts. So that combined with these orders that there's going to be no more chip sales to China, this is not respectful. This is not coming to the table as equals and trying to work it out. Donald Trump is under tremendous pressure, and time is not on his side. Remember that. These tariffs are going to bite, regardless of what happened today with the tariff ruling by the International Trade Court, the U.S. International Trade Court. The fact is, prices are going to up. American consumers are not going to be happy. They wanted Donald Trump over Kamala Harris because they thought he was more competent to control prices and to be able to run the economy as a businessman. Since he took office, all he's done is increase prices.
Right. Mr. Tangen, going by your words, it seems like China has a soft spot when it comes to either trade war or other issues between Beijing and Washington. So let me ask you this. Do you think China can survive without the United States?
I think the world will and China will have to survive without the United States. Remember, it was Donald Trump fired a broadside at 180 countries, including ones inhabited by penguins. There was very little thought that was put into it. I mean, this is a guy who, for unknown reasons, thinks it's really important to get up with a Sharpie and start showing a big list of countries that no one can even see in terms of the press. He continues to confound people. Now, let's talk a little bit about the timing. I'm a lawyer. I can tell you that his legal counsel told him that he was not doing well at the International Trade Court and that they were going to strike down his ability to have tariffs at will. So what has he done? He's issued a bunch of white rabbits pronouncements that are so outrageous that we're talking about them right now. Attacking students, attacking trade. Does that sound familiar? Go back to every time Donald Trump has bad news, and you'll find that he introduces new subjects, all right? New things for the press to follow around to prevent them from concentrating on his failures. Here's a man.
Do you think the Americans are able to see through them?
They will eventually. This is a man for 18 years said that Obamacare was terrible and that he had a beautiful plan to fix it. He was president for 4 of those 18 years. When they asked him just before this election, what's the big health plan? His response, I have a framework of concepts. This is a man, Donald Trump is not somebody who creates solutions. He creates controversy, headlines.
Mr. Tangen, he still got elected. We have to recognize that.
He got elected, absolutely, because people thought that he was better than Kamala Harris. And I'd have to say, it would be hard for me to draw much between them other than the amount of outrage that each one of them does. Kamala Harris was telling people everything's great. The Harris-Biden budget, you should be happy, even though you can't pay your bills and you can't purchase eggs. Don't worry about it, right? Donald Trump said, I'll control prices. Day one, I will be in there and I will control prices. I will bring prices down. That's my first thing I'm going to do. But he's betrayed the American public, just like so many other administrations. Listen, let's just for a second, focus on the fact, why is it that the U.S. lost so much industrial capacity? I was chair of my state's International Trade Council. So I understand this very well. In Washington, they decided maybe 30 years ago, that it was easier to keep the dollar strong. It helped the stock market and it made borrowing cheap. But the trade-off is your manufacturing products are no longer competitive in the world, not even at home. We sold our future for fat cat profits and for politicians who are more interested in getting some sort of contribution to their reelection than they were about taking care of their. Look at America now. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We're attacking ourselves. We're divided. We're attacking our future by attacking these educational institutions. This is not the America that should be. It is an America that has blundered by default into a difficult situation. And now you have a president who thinks that by turning the clock back, investing trillions of dollars into remaking manufacturing that will never be cost competitive, won't produce the jobs he's promising, because in order to even be slightly competitive, they're going to have to be automated, have to use robots. They can't use people. It's too expensive. He's favoring this over our advantages in the digital economy where there's huge profits to be made. We're going in the wrong direction. It's the wrong choice yet again.
Mr. Tangen, before I ask my last question, it's my personal opinion. I think that the world is realizing much faster than the US is that the world does not revolve around Washington anymore. And given this context and the new world order we keep talking about, where do you think China sits?
China is trying to be the adult in the room. You know, it would be very easy for China to just say, oh, okay, Donald Trump has walked into quicksand. All we have to do is lay back and watch him suffer. It isn't that easy. China is going to suffer. Absolutely no question. Will they survive? Yes, they will survive, but it's going to be very brutal. A lot of medium, small business entities are going to suffer, right? America will not suffer alone, but it's so unnecessary. So instead of just laughing at Donald Trump and walking away and saying, oh, we'll wait and see just how, when the revolution comes for you, Donald Trump, because people are unhappy because you betrayed them. They're now saying, look, we have to be the adults in the room, not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. We have to figure out some way of doing something. So what is their plan? About 5 weeks ago, they came out with a 6-point white paper. And one of the points, very strangely, talked about phase one. And it said, well, why did it fail? Well, why would you talk about something that had failed before unless you were open invitation to a phase two? China would be willing to buy American energy and agriculture in exchange for trade peace. Now, why does this work in Beijing's opinion? Because it is transactional, and they're dealing with a very transactional person. If he walks away from the deal stops. So they're hoping that once Trump buys into this deal, can declare victory, saying, this is what I was planning to do all along, all right? Hopefully there can be some stability, not only for China, but for the rest of the world.
All right. You say China is being the adult in the room. Adults are not always right, but let's hope China is. All right, Mr. Einar Tangen, thank you so much for joining us on Hindustan Times. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. All the best.